Joe, if you would, to start with, could you share with us when and where you were born?
I was born on the eastern part of Cuba. That's over there near, well, it's in the middle of the island up there, the eastern province near Guantanamo. You heard Gitmo? Well, Gitmo was a few miles south of where I was, and that's where I was born. I was born in the year 1935, and I was presented here as a refugee. Well, I am familiar with a lot of refugees. I was one of the fortunate ones. I came here through a legal matter. We went through the consulate. We went through all our paperwork and all the red tape that is needed to come to this country here. I went through that. First was my dad. He came here a year before. His mother was born and raised in New York, so he was out of American blood, so he wouldn't be here. So he brought his family. And we came a year later. My God, thank God for the USA. I have an experience that with the refugees that started really in 1959 when old Fidel showed up. My gosh, people protected him and they thought he was the liberator. People in Cuba used to have signs like this: Fidel, this is your house. Guess what? He took it. He took all the house. Took the whole thing. But anyway, after a while, it's a long story. But this lady before me here, what an awesome speech she made. Karen Perry, awesome. Now, you got to know your history. I know the history of two countries. First, Cuba, because I came here at 14. I had to learn a whole brand new history here. So I needed those two countries. But I did see what was happening in Cuba. Cuba, Fidel started taking the country by force, by the point of a gun. When he got into power, he disarmed the country. Then he started going to the schools and indoctrinating the little children. Do you know any little children who's been indoctrinated? Nowadays, be careful. Be aware that you get bit by the snake. And it's not the one that flies on this flag over here. The one that crawls on the ground that it sneaks upon you. Now, I gave an oath to this 3 times. I've given an oath since I've been here in my short 74 years. The first one was when I resigned my citizenship in Cuba and accepted to become a U.S. citizen. I raised my right hand and I became an American, not a hyphenated American. I was an American, no longer Cuban American, no longer Afro-American, Mexican-American. Who invented that? Socialism invented that. Separate people, keep them separate. That's what it is, and I'm an American. The second oath that I accepted was to defend the Constitution of the United States. As I joined the Air Force to defend it against domestic and foreign enemies. Guess what? Those are still in force, guys. And so we need to go and defend our Constitution, our Constitution right. Make sure that you are going to vote for the right person that is going to stand up for you, for liberty, and for freedom. For the freedom, not the one that just handles a little fry, but actually the liberty that comes with justice, the liberty that comes from our God, the one that is in the Constitution, the liberty and justice for all. That's the one. So, I don't know if I've given you a little background, but I was really raised here. Remember the show Happy Days with Hans? I grew up in that, so I can't relate a lot to what was going on in Cuba, except that a lot of my cousins and all that. I heard all the horrible stories. Some of those were fortunate enough to leave, others did not. But anyway, thank God for the USA. Let me tell you what, this is a great country, and off the coast of the United States, there is a cancer that it was spreading, and now they're going down into Venezuela. Those people are a bunch of liars from the pits of hell. I'll tell you what, they are. They're just giving you all these great and wonderful social things, but in the end of it, it's death and poverty. And just ruin. my former country was fine. There was dancing, music everywhere. What a ball. Today, it's like a cemetery. You know, there's no life there. Anyway, that I can get going on and on. I don't want to give you a history lesson.
Well, Joe, thank you very much. We're not done.
Oh,
Joe, how do you see the political climate, how it compares to where it was just prior to Castro in Cuba and where we are in America today? Is there any similarities whatsoever? You know, talk about that if you would a minute.
okay. Cuba was a republic. It's known as the Republic of Cuba. Cuba had fought a war, a miserable war against Spain for 10 years. Then after the Maine, the U.S. got in there, kicked the Spanish out, and Cuba became a republic. The government there was formed just like here. Had three chambers: of government, the executive, the judicial, and the other branch. Now all this government, they all went through the political thing, just like we're doing here. There were politicians that would come and they would speak, and so people went to the polls and they voted, and they elected a president, they elected congressmen, and there were laws made, and there was the Constitution. I can't quote it because I don't remember it. But anyway, Fidel took the Constitution, and I guess he made a paper airplane of it and threw it out because that was the end of it. But there's that country being a republic. We're a republic in this country. And I think it was Ben Franklin that says, I want to give you a republic, but will you be able to keep it? We got to keep this republic. We got to keep this republic. There's a lot of similarities of what's happening down there and what's going on here, because the Bible is Karl Marx and Lenin and all of the socialistic ideas that are creeping all through for years. It's been going on. And now, I guess we became complacent and we just didn't vote for the right person. Anyway,
Well, thank you, Joe.